Hi, Sarah Banas here, Learn to Craft. So today we're going to talk about Cricut Design Space, um, both how to use it as well as there have been quite a few updates recently. We're going to go over some of the updates and just get you more familiar with the program. And it's really a very, very simple program, but effective once you get through that initial learning curve. So I'm going to walk you through all that so that you have the confidence to move forward and explore it on your own. If this video is of interest to you, like the video, but also subscribe to my channel. There's a lot of really neat design videos coming up that you're not going to want to miss. When you're subscribed, you'll get notification when the new videos come out. The other thing, real quick, before we move forward, join me on Facebook. We have a massive collaborative of Cricut and Silhouette users. I think we're at like 2.5 million members total across our collaborative, across all the groups. I'm gonna link Cricut for Beginners. It's about 670,000 members, super friendly, super helpful. You'll fit right in. So make sure you join us there. I'll link that in the video description below. Okay, so let's get started here. We can get rid of all of this extra stuff. So this is a design that I have uploaded, okay? And we'll go over how to upload in a moment. So this design, you can see over here on the right-hand side, this has layers. So each one of these individual pieces is a layer. Now, if this were a design that I were making, I would have grouped the color groups. So I would have made all of these gray tops. I would have made that all one layer. I would have made each of the color groups a single layer, because that is a layer you're going to be cutting out of vinyl or paper or cardstock, whatever you're cutting it out of. This particular designer, you can see over here, made each individual piece its own layer, which is, I guess, nice, because then you can go through and regroup those into different layers if you want to change the colors. So let's click on this. That's how you select it. And then you can see over here on the right, see on the top, it says ungroup. So right now this is all grouped together. If I tried to make this right now, it wouldn't recognize it as being separate. So we're going to click that. And now we can work with each individual layer. Okay. So there's one layer. Now I can move this completely separate from everything else. Okay. So each one of these is going to be an individual layer. Okay. So let's go ahead and we can get rid of this. Now let's look at our text box. Okay. You see right here, the T, click on that, and that's going to bring up your text. Okay, so now right here on the upper left, now I'm on desktop right now. I can make a separate video for mobile, but I mean, you can, with this information, you can figure out mobile as well. So right here, I'm going to click on that. And now here up on top, you can see that system is selected. That is the fonts that I have, either my, this is a Windows PC, either my computer came with them pre-installed or I have installed fonts. I'll link in the video description how to install your own fonts. It's incredibly easy. But that's what these are. These are all either fonts that came pre-installed in my system or fonts that I have installed in my system, okay? And then this is the Cricut fonts. These are fonts that are on the cloud and unique to Cricut Design Space. So I shouldn't say unique, because these may be fonts that are listed elsewhere. I don't know for sure if these are fonts that are owned by Cricut and not listed elsewhere, which, I mean, there's a chance that's the case. Or they could be just fonts that designers have licensed to Cricut. I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyway, so here's all these fonts. Now you can go through and you can, excuse me, your system fonts, you'll see that that goes away, this right here. So with the Cricut fonts, you can go through and choose exactly what type of font you want to use. Obviously, with your system fonts, this program doesn't have any way of recognizing what is a classic and what is a fashion or contemporary, whatever have you. Um, but so that's how you do that. So let me go ahead. I'm going to choose, and I like that it gives you a preview of what the font is going to look like. So I'm going to choose, it's one of my favorite fonts. I'll link this in the video description as well. It's super duper pretty. So that's Sweet Boho. Okay. So now I have chosen that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this up here. And so if I want to duplicate that text, then right here on the upper right, I'm going to click duplicate. Okay. And then I'm going to type hello. And with that selected, now I'm going to click on this again, and I'm going to type in, and I'm going to change that. Okay. So now I'm going to change this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to center these, okay? So I'm going to select both. And so there's a couple of ways. I'm going to show you two different ways of selecting both, and this will be important later. So I can draw a box touching both and select both, or on PC I can select one, and then I can press Control and then hover over it and left click. Oops, that didn't work. Okay, I'm sorry. Must have been switched on the update. So over here in your layers panel, then I can have one selected, right? And then press Control and left click. And then that will select both of those. Now you can see now that these are highlighted over here. That means that I have selected both of these layers. So I'm now going to be working with both of these two layers, okay? That's what each one of these, each piece over here is a layer. Okay, just real quick, excuse me, before we move forward, let me show you how you can change colors of a layer. Okay, so up here on the top, this is your color panel. Okay, so I can change that to this color, or I can go into advanced and I can move it down here, or I can move it on here. Okay. Now, ultimately, unless you're doing a print then cut, changing these colors is just changing it for your view. Because when you go to make it, when you go to make this item, you're just going to load whatever color vinyl or cardstock you want to cut it in onto the mat. But having it set up on the colors that you're eventually going to cut it in, that will make it easier for you to, when you get to the make it screen, when you get to that, putting it on your mat, to remember which color you had each individual layer. So, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two and I'm going to show you right here on top, it says align. Okay. I'm going to align center right here. And that's going to align them this way. Okay. Now what I can do, I'm going to take one more text box. And right here you can see duplicate. And I'm going to take this down here. And actually, you know what? For the sake of this, I'm going to change these both to emissary hand so that you can see how it works when we do this. So I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to again go to align and I'm going to go to center horizontally. But now what I'm going to do, here, let me just move this one kind of wonky. Okay. And say I want to evenly space these out. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to align and then I'm going to distribute them vertically. Okay, so you saw how that equally distributed those out. Now with these selected like this, if I wanted to, excuse me, if I wanted to just go ahead and cut this in vinyl and then, put that onto something, what I would do so that I had that equally spaced out is I would select this one and then I would control and left click, and now I have just those two layers selected. And then what I would do is down here, go to combine, and I would weld those together. Now you'll see when I weld them, do you see how this became one single layer here? And then this is your secondary layer. So now you only have two layers. Now with weld, you can only back out of that. You can't unweld, but you can back out of that. So if you ever want to unweld, you need to do that right away before you move forward into your project further, because otherwise you would need to back out of everything. Okay, so let me show you now. Select that and select this. Another way to do it would be to right click and then unite. Now unite you can undo. So now with that selected, if I click on combine, it'll say undo unite, and you can undo that. So that's not a permanent function, okay? So let's look at the okay, so here, let's get rid of these. Just want to make sure that you know all of the basic functions of Design Space. Okay, so let's take this and then, oops, shapes, we'll take a circle. Now with this selected, I'm going to show you if I stretch this out from the corner, do you see that it's staying in proportion? So the top and the sides are moving at equal amounts. Up here on top, do you see that lockbox? If you click on that, now you can move it outside of proportion, and you can just size that to the size that you want it. You can also do that right here. If you have, right here on top, if you have exact dimensions you want to use, you can do that there. Okay. So now I'm going to change this to a different color so it's easier to see what we're doing. And now I'm going to show you how to move your layers so that when you're working with them, here, I'll just do it and I'll show you. So if I right click on this, and here, let's show you first. So when I put this, see how that's on top of the square? Now I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to click send to back. Okay, so now that is now going to be the back layer. Okay, so that is useful in when you're building, different cut things, but also, and more importantly, when you're doing print projects, because then at that you would want different layers to be the front layer when you're building them. Okay, so let's move this back to the front. And I don't know if you saw that or not, but if you have, like, say 5 layers, you can send it all the way to the back. Or if you click by clicking send to back, or if you just want to move it behind one layer, behind the layer right in front of it, then you would just click send backwards. Okay, so now let me show you this. Okay, so if I select both of these and I click slice, think of slice as a cookie cutter. Okay, so your top layer is going to get sliced, but also your bottom layer is going to get sliced. Okay, so you're slicing both of those images. Anything that overlaps is going to slice. Okay, and now if I select both and I click combine, now watch what happens when I click exclude. Okay, so exclude is just going to get rid of anything that overlaps. And now if I select both and I click intersect, it's only going to keep the portion that overlaps. Okay, and now I'm going to select both and I'm going to click subtract. Okay, now subtract got rid of both the layer that you were using as a cookie cutter as well as the portion of that layer that overlapped the layer behind it. Now let me show you something. If you ever try to use one of those functions and this happens, so I'm going to select all three, and I don't have now, select all three, I don't have the option to slice. The reason that is because you can only select 2 items when you're trying to slice. You can only select 2 layers. You can't have more than that selected, or Design Space won't know what to do with that. It won't know what you're telling it to slice. Okay. So now let's talk about, and just so that we're, so you know, I'm going to assume that you would know, but maybe not. Attach, all you're doing is attaching the layers. So that is, again, that's something that you can undo. Okay. And that is down here also. Okay. So now I'm going to select these, and I'm going to, okay, so let's look at flatten now. So flatten would be used for print then cut. Let's also first look at operations. Okay, so you see this is selected up here where it says operation, and I have it selected that it's going to basic cut. So that's what it's going to do. Okay, that's what I'm telling the machine to do with that item. Okay, you can also change. So if I change it to pen, now all it's going to do is it's going to draw that item, and it's going to tell the machine that I am going to be using a pen, not the blade. Okay. Now here, that's print then cut. Okay. So now I'm telling the machine to first send this to my printer and print out that circle. And then after it's printed, I'll take the printed image, load that onto my mat, load that into the Cricut, and then it will cut. So I have print it first, and then it will cut the outside of the shape. Okay, so now let's talk about flatten. Okay, so you have these two, and then I'm going to take this. I'm going to select all 3 of these. I'm going to align. I'm going to center. Sometimes center, even though it is correct, looks off. So I like to fix it. And I'm going to select all 3 of those. Now, right now, you can see that these are 3 separate layers, right? And I'm going to flatten that. Now this is one, and anytime you flatten, it's automatically going to change it to print then cut, because now that's what you're directing the machine to do. So now you have this flattened image. What would happen right now if I click make it? I don't have my machine on, so I'm not 100% sure if it'll work. Okay, so it's going to show at least this. So this is all you really need to see. So right now, this is telling my system to first send this to the printer. This right here, this box that prints around it, is the registration box. So that is telling the Cricut, once I have printed it and I have loaded this printed sheet onto the mat, the Cricut will, the sensor, the light sensor, will read this, and that's what tells it where to cut. So now with this flattened image, what would happen is it would print all of this, and then it would just cut that outside layer. So when you're doing a print then cut, let's go back to our mat. When you're doing a print then cut, whatever that base layer is that you have flattened this to, whatever the base shape is, that is the shape that's going to cut. Everything else is going to print, and then that is going to cut. So for instance, if I took a star and put this right here, and then selected both of these and flattened them, it would print this entire image. But now it's not going to cut out this inside square. it's only going to cut out the very outside edge of whatever shape it is you have as your base on your flattened image. Okay, so let's look at, if you want to get into your projects, anything that you have. So for instance, if I wanted to save this, I would click on save. Now I have already saved this as I had my primary start where I started at saved. So I could either, if I click save again, that would save over that, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to click save as, and then I would name it whatever I want to name it. Okay, and then click save. And I'm going to show you where to then locate your saved projects. So if you click on projects, oops, not click on projects, excuse me, this is all Cricut projects. So go back to my canvas, click on my stuff, and now these are all my projects. Now I can open up any, this is the project I just saved, this is the original one I saved, and now I can go back and open up any of my projects that I have saved, okay? Images, that's how you get into all of Cricut's images, which they have a massive library. Some of them are free, and then they switch out, you know, what is free. I think it's week by week. I'm not 100% sure on that. But then there's also, if you purchase their monthly subscription plan, that also has just a massive amount of images included in it. So, and that's where you would, so if I put in star, that's going to bring up all of these, and then I could just, you know, bring any one of these um, into my canvas. And that's how you do that. Okay. So we have shapes, projects, images, text, phrases, editable, monogram. I'm trying to think. I mean, that's really about it. There's really, like I said. Oh, so let's look at. Let's look at one more thing. Actually, let's look at two more things. So let's get rid of this, and then let's look at offset, and we will look at curve. So offset. Change the color of that. Okay, so what offset is going to give you a shadow layer. So let me just show you. If I duplicate this, say I wanted a black outline around this. Okay, if I duplicate this and then just make that larger, those layers aren't going to line up to give it a shadow. The way you give it a shadow is click on it, and then right here on top, click offset, and then you can slide this. Now, if you want it to be an inside and you wanted the yellow to be the shadow, you would go that way. You go that direction of the line. You want it just to be a regular shadow like this. Okay, and then you're going to click apply. And now, so that's that back layer, right? If you wanted to change the color of that, but so now you have two layers, okay? Super, super nice to have. And let me show you curve. Curve is super important. So if you curve this way, curve to the right, it's going to give you the top curve. If you curve the other way, it's going to give you the bottom curve, okay? That's a super, super nice function. And I mean, really, that's about it. That's really, I mean, that's Design Space in a nutshell. Like I said, it's super great program, very easy. You know, and once you get down those basic functions, now you can start moving into, you know, more complex things. For instance, font glyphs, which are fancy letters that some fonts have in them. I have video, so if you're on iOS, a Windows PC, or a Mac, font glyphs are handled differently. And I have videos for each of those that I'll link in the video description. Let me just quickly show you what a font glyph is. So if I go to, no, I don't like this. So that what you're seeing right there, that is a character map, and that the like I said, the video will show you how to use this if you're interested in font glyphs. I'll just show you real quick so that you know. But this is a more advanced thing that you can learn. Not something you need to know right now, but once you start getting further into this one, once you start getting further into Design Space and you're even more confident in it, then this is the type of thing that you'll learn as we go. And make sure you do like the video and subscribe to the channel, and that way you'll get a notification when the new videos come out. So that doesn't look great, but that's the basics of it. So put that together. So that's it. I mean, really, Design Space is incredibly easy. Like I said, it's a fun program. It's well put together for people who somebody like when I first started with Cricut, I didn't know anything about design, and so really it was easy, but it's a meaty enough program that it has everything that you need to make really amazing projects. So that's it. Like the video if it was helpful, subscribe to my channel, but make sure also that you join us on Facebook. You will love the group. It's such a fantastic group, super friendly, super helpful, super knowledgeable. I give away free fonts and designs on there all the time. Um, so make sure you join us there. When you're looking at the video on Face or on YouTube rather, underneath, click, if you're on mobile, click see more, I think it is. If you're on desktop, there's an arrow pointing down, and that'll expand the information on the video, and everything will be linked in there. And that's it. I hope you have a great day. Bye.